What's up, everybody? This is old Papa G, and I made another WoW video for you guys, so get ready. In this video, we're gonna get more into detail. I'm pretty much doing a class guide, but not too much into detail. Like, we're not gonna do conduits and covenants in this one, but we will do that in a later video down the road. In this video, we're gonna go over the PvP talents for 10 different specs. We're going to go through the talents, why they should be picked, and then I'm also going to do the 3 PvP talents that you choose to, that only get used in PvP zones. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the content. If you do, if you could, please like and subscribe. My last couple of videos that I made, they were tier list and comp based. I'm going to post those links into the bio. That way you could go and check those out as well. They go really into detail of the comps and why they go together well, and the tier list goes into a lot of detail as well. So now let's just get right into it. First off, we're going to start with Frost Mage. One more thing I wanted to mention actually before we start. I get all of my information from Skillcapped and MMO Champion. That way you know I'm a reliable source. You could go and fact check me if you need to. If you don't believe me, I subscribe to Skillcapped and I watch all of their videos that come out for their newest update of all the different classes. I also have had access to the beta. I've played it. I'm playing the pre-patch, so I have a good understanding. I've played this game for years. So, and you could also check up on all the updated information from MMOchampion.com. So now let's get into it. Quick. Obviously, you have 3 choices for every class, but this, this is what you get in your talent automatically by default. Frostbolt, obviously. Ice Lance, this has been a staple since Burning Crusades. It does way more damage on frozen targets, and it's an instant move. Flurry unleashes a flurry of ice, striking the target 3 times for a total of 688 frost damage. Each hit reduces the target's movement speed by 70%. Fingers of Frost, this is what makes it the frozen target without the target actually being frozen, but I'll read it anyway. Frostbolt has a 15% chance, and Frozen Orb damage has a 10% chance to grant charge of Fingers of Frost. So basically, you automatically can shoot Ice Lance at a non-frozen target. Summon Water Elemental, which we're going to get into. You're not even going to use your Water Elemental at all anymore. And then Frozen Orb, which is excellent, launches an orb of swirling ice up to 40 yards forward, which deals up to 160 frost damage to 8 enemies. It passes through, grants 1 charge of Fingers of Frost. So there you have it, and then we're going to get into the talent. By getting rid of your Water Elemental, you see Frostbolt and Ice Lance get a 25% increased damage. Shimmer, this was how it was in BFA. You get 2 charges of Blink. It replaces Blink, and it gives you 2 charges of Blink. Essentially, that's all it does. Next, you're going to want Incanter's Flow. Magical energy flows through you while in combat, building up to 20% increased damage, and then diminishing down to 4% increased damage, cycling every 10 seconds. Now, the next one, you're going to want Chain Reaction. This is going to be the choice because of how frequently you use Ice Lance and how strong it hits. So I'm only at level 50, and I'm already hitting 3,000 with Ice Lance, and I'm level 50 with the pre-patch with, like, item level 103 gear. This is definitely going to be the choice that you want. Your Ice Lance against frozen targets increases the damage of your Ice Lances by 3% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 5 times, so it goes up to 15%. This is a big deal. It's going to hit really, really hard if you're at 15%, because even without the 15%, it hits really hard. So, down to the final 3, we got Ring of Frost. Ring of Frost has been, since VFA, always the choice. Summons a Ring of Frost for 10 seconds at the target's location. Enemies entering the ring are incapacitated for 10 seconds, limiting 10 targets. Now, we're down to our last 2. Comet Storm calls down a series of 7 icy comets on and around the target that deals up to 1,600 frost damage to all enemies within 6 yards. It's also instant, so it's really, really good. And it covers, it's basically an AoE, so you're covering more ground. And lastly, you're going to want Ray of Frost. So channel an icy beam at the enemy for 4.4 seconds, dealing 700 frost damage every second and slowing movement by 60%. Each time Ray of Frost deals damage, its damage and snare increase by 10%. So obviously that's going up by 10%. You get 4 ticks out of it. That's pretty good. and it generates 2 Fingers of Frost, so it's making your Ice Lance hit really hard. Now in terms of PvP talents, these are the 3 that you're going to want. Concentration Coolness, your Frozen Orb's damage is increased by 10% and is now castable at location within a 40-yard range, but no longer moves. So it used to be that you would click it and it would just go straight and like move around. This, you get a little bit more choice of where you want it to really go. Deep Shatter, your Frostbolt deals 150% additional damage to frozen targets. This is an obvious choice here. And now, for your third one, there's a couple different choices you can do, but this is the one that I chose. They give you 3 different options. This is the one I think is going to be the best. It replaces your Icy Veins. Your body turns into ice, increasing your Frostbolt damage by 30% and granting immunity to stuns and knockback effects, and it lasts 12 seconds. So, obviously, that's really good. You're basically getting another way to get out of stuns. So, it's definitely relevant. So that's it for Mage Talent. Just like I did with the Mage, same thing. You have the 3 talents, and here you go. So the staples that come with Elemental are Lightning Bolt. Obviously, Enhancement and Restoration both have Lightning Bolt, but Elemental's is better. I don't even have to read that. Earth Shock, it's an instant shock. It's just like Frost Shock, Fire Shock, Flame Shock, but for this, it just does instant burst damage. Here's the big boy, Lava Burst. Hurls molten lava at the target, dealing 424 fire damage. Lava Burst will always critically strike if the target is affected with Flame Shock, so obviously this is a big deal. Fire Elemental, which this is one of the first times ever now you could actually use your Elemental in Arena. Many seasons, many expansions, you used to not be able to do that, so I think it's pretty awesome that you can now. Calls forth a greater Fire Elemental to rain destruction on your enemies for 30 seconds. While the Fire Elemental is active, Flame Shock deals damage 25% faster. You got Thunderstorm, calls down a bolt of lightning, dealing 41 nature damage to all enemies within 10 yards, reducing their movement speed by 40% for 5 seconds, and knocking them away from the Shaman, usable while stunned. So this is really good. Obviously, anything you could use while you're stunned to get people off of you is excellent. And lastly, Earthquake causes the earth within 8 yards of the target's location to tremble and break, dealing 542 physical damage over 6 seconds, and sometimes knocking down the enemies. So there you have it, and then we're going to get into the talent now. So first up, we have Echoes of Elements. Lava Burst now has 2 charges, effects that reset its remaining cooldown will instead grant 1 charge. Yeah, so getting 2 charges out of Lava Burst to be instant is fucking excellent because, like I said, it has 1-hit KO ability. Next, you got Echoing Shock. Shock the target for 255 elemental damage and create an echo, causing your next damage or healing spell to cast a second time, 1 second later. This is how you get the 1-hit KO. This is exactly how you do it. You literally are getting 2 big hits out of Lava Burst. I've seen in videos Lava Burst hit 30k. If you're hitting for 30k twice, it's over. So next up, Earthshield. This is good for your own sustainability. Protects the target with an earthen shield, increasing your healing on them by 20% and healing them for 289 when they take damage, 9 charges. So definitely good for your own sustainability. Or if you want to put it on the healer, regardless, it's definitely relevant. Now, Master of Elements. Casting Lava Burst increases the damage of your next nature, physical, or frost spell by 20%. So this class is really all about your Lava Burst. It's all around the Lava Burst. So that's basically what it's all about. Sometimes you're going to have a hard time on against comps that make it harder for you to cast. So rogues, warriors, if it's harder for you to cast Lava Burst, you're going to have a little bit of a harder time. But if you can get it off, you're going to be really relevant. Nature's Guardian is next. When your health is brought below 35%, you instantly heal for 20% of your maximum health. So this is a big one for your survivability. Cannot occur more than once every 45 seconds. You shouldn't need to worry about that every more than 45 seconds anyway, so yeah. Next up, Primal Elementalist. Your Earth, Fire, and Storm elements are drawn from Primal Elements, 80% more powerful than regular elements, with additional abilities, and you gain direct control over them. And lastly, Ascendance. Transform into a Flame Ascendant for 15 seconds, replacing Chain Lightning with Lava Beam, removing the cooldown of Lava Burst, big one right there, and increasing the damage of Lava Burst by an amount equal to your critical strike chance. This is huge. This is huge. This is also plays a factor into your one-hit KO ability. So, like I said earlier, this is what it's all about. You're definitely going to want Ascendance. And then for our PvP talents, Grounding Totem, this is a must. Summon an air totem with 50 health at the feet of the caster that will redirect all harmful spells cast on a nearby party member to itself. Last 3 seconds. You 100% need this. This is without question. Next, Control Lava. Lava Burst. Damage increased by 25%. As you can see, it's a trend here. Now, also, your Flame Shock damage over time has a 10% chance to reset the remaining cooldown of your Lava Burst and increase its damage by 25%, stacking up to 3 times. This is huge. Like I said, it's just all about Lava Burst. You definitely want this. And then lastly, Lightning Lasso. Grips the target in lightning, stunning and dealing 2700 nature damage over 5 seconds while the target is lassoed. Cannot move while can move while channeling. So this is, you're getting a free stun here with a 30-second cooldown from your PvP talent. So like I said, now you're adding additional CC to this class. So yeah, they are definitely. And now we're gonna do Warrior. It's a shame that Fury hasn't been good in years. It's pretty cool that you could dual wield two-handed weapons. I kind of like that idea, but irrelevant. Mortal Strike, which every melee in the game wishes they had a Mortal Strike. A vicious strike that deals 733 physical damage and reduces the effectiveness of healing on that target by 50% for 10 seconds. Oh, something to mention right now. Obviously, as you see it right there, it says 733. As you level all the way up to 60, that's going to completely change. It's going to keep going up. So I just figured I'd mention that. Overpower, which another big staple why warriors are so great. Overpower the enemy, dealing 466 physical damage, cannot be blocked, dodged, or parried. Increase the damage of your next Mortal Strike by 20%, stacking up 2 times. Obviously, they work hand in hand together, so it's a beautiful thing. Colossal Smash, which you'll see as we go on, you actually are going to pick a talent that switches Colossal Smash, but I'll read it anyway. Smashes the enemy's armor, dealing 923 physical damage, and increasing the damage you deal to them by 30% for 10 seconds. Basically, the change for the talent keeps that same thing, but just amplifies it and makes things better. Sweeping Strike, for the next 12 seconds, your single target damage abilities now go on to the target next to it, within how many yards? Within 8 yards, and deal 75% of the damage. Die by the sword. This is an excellent move. Increases your parry chance by 100% and reduces all damage taken by 30%. I like to stack it with certain things, but we'll get into that later. And then finally, probably top 5 favorite move in the game, Bladestorm. Become an unstoppable storm of destruction, striking up to 8 nearby enemies for 2200 physical damage over 5.3 seconds. You are immune to movement impairing and loss of control effects. Can use defensive abilities and can avoid attacks. So there you go. There you have it for Warrior, and now we'll do the talent. Only going to be relevant. Like I said earlier, they've seen a lot of additional moves. So we got Sudden Death. Your attacks have a chance to make your next execute cost no rage, usable on any target regardless of their health, and deal damage as if you spent 40 rage. So it doesn't matter what their health is at, you could use Execute, and obviously Execute is probably your strongest move. Next, Stormbolt. This is a must. You need this for the stun. Hurls your weapon at an enemy, causing 83 physical damage. That's irrelevant. And stunning for 4 seconds, so this gives you additional CC. You absolutely need this. Massacre. Execute is now usable on targets below 35% health. So, again, this is really more about your Execute. It's your strongest hitting move. It gives you a little bit more leeway with it, so you're definitely going to want that. So now here, defensive stance. This is the way to go. I know, obviously, you're going to have reduced damage, but you also take less damage, so it's a give and take here. Defensive stance. A defensive combat state that reduces all damage you take by 20% and all damage you deal by 10%. So it's a give and take. It's definitely worth it. Warbreaker replaces Colossal Smash. Smash the ground and shatter the armor of all enemies within 8 yards, dealing 900 physical damage and increasing damage you deal to them by 30% for 10 seconds. So obviously, if this is done right and you link it with your Execute, you're going to be doing big damage. So it's definitely worth it. The last two, we got Avatar, transform into a Colossus. This was also in BFA, by the way. This was the choice. Transform into a Colossus for 20 seconds, causing you to deal 20% increased damage and removing all roots and snares. So any slows that you have on you and you're having a hard time getting to your target, this is what you need.
And the cooldown isn't that ridiculous. And it also generates rage, 20 rage. And lastly, this is a must. Overpower has 2 charges and causes a seismic wave dealing 234 damage to up to 5 enemies within the 10-yard line. This is the automatic choice here because your overpower is everything. And the last 3. So Sharpened Blade, you're definitely going to want this. This is a must. 25-second cooldown, not very long. When activated, your next Mortal Strike will deal 15% increased damage. It's all about the Mortal Strike anyway, and reduces healing taken by 50% for 6 seconds. So that's literally 1/5 of what the cooldown is anyway. You definitely want Sharpened Blade. Master and Command, this was also in BFA. It's still the choice here. Cooldown of Rallying Cry reduced by 2 minutes and grants 15% additional health. You definitely want this. It's going to go together with your Intervene and your Spell Reflection. You're going to Intervene and then you could do Rallying Cry next to the target and you get the increased health. And lastly, Storm of Destruction reduces the cooldown of Bladestorm by 33%. This is a no-brainer. I mean, getting this reduced is what you really want. I just hit 200k on that little beetle right there, that poor beetle. But yeah, you definitely want that reduced by 33%, which means that it's really, what would it be? Like a minute and a half cooldown instead of 2 minutes, so it's definitely what you want.
Okay, so now we're going to do the Druid. We're going to do 2 different specs for the Druid right now. We're going to do Balance, and we're going to do Resto. I'm not going to do Feral today, but you'll see why. Pretty much I'm doing these because they're both casters. In a sense, they both use mana, so it's a little bit easier. That way the toolbar looks nice and neat, and I don't have to go crazy going for Feral. But I will do it at a later date, I promise. So first, the staples that come with Balance. You got Moonfire. You should know what Moonfire does. It's a beam of light, and as you do that, it helps you get to Lunar Eclipse. Wrath hurls a ball of energy at the target, dealing 286. Star Surge, this is their big damage move. Launch a surge of stellar energies at the target, dealing 1072 astral damage, and empowering the damage bonus of any active eclipse for its duration. Moonkin form. Obviously, that's what I am right now. Beautiful Moonkin. I love the way it looks. But Moonkin, shapeshift into a Moonkin form, increasing the damage of your spells by 10%, and your armor up to 125%, and granting protection from polymorph effects. While in this form, single target attacks against you have a 15% chance to make your next Starfire instant. And then we got Solar Beam. This is a good move. It's like not a silence, but an interrupt. Summons a beam of solar light over an enemy's location, interrupting the target and silencing all enemies within the beam. Last 8 seconds. And finally, Starfall. Calls down the waves of falling stars upon the enemy within 45 yards, dealing 903 astral damage over 8 seconds. This is another big boy move. Just like Star Surge, it does heavy damage. And with one of the talents, it like really amplifies that. So let's get into the talent of it. First, we got Nature's Balance. While in combat, you generate 1 astral power every 2 seconds. While out of combat, your astral power rebalances to 50 instead of depleting to empty. The reason why this is pretty crucial is Balance, or any Druid in general, do have the opportunity to get out of combat because of cat form, just sprinting away and then getting back into Prowl, aka Stealth. So that is good. That way you could reboost your astral power, as you see here, and then you could go right out of it and do Starfall, Star Surge, whatever you like. And yeah, that's why that one's pretty important. Next, we have Renewal. This is, without a question, I think this is used for all 3 forms, actually. Feral, Resto, and Balance. But here it is. Renewal instantly heals you for 30% of your maximum health, usable in all shape-shifting forms. So obviously, that is really crucial that you could use it in all forms. And the cooldown's not that bad, 1.5 minutes. It's not horrible. Now, Guardian Affinity. This one is without a question the best one by far because you're also getting basically 1 effect and 3 moves for the price of 1 talent, so it's pretty critical. First off, you get Thick Hide. Reduces all damage taken by 6%, and you also learn Thrash, Frenzied Regeneration, and Incapacitating Roar. Frenzied Regeneration and Incapacitating Roar are pretty crucial because right from Moonkin form right now, I can literally go into bear form just by doing the move without clicking bear form. And now I'm going to read you those moves. First, you have Thrash. It's just a regular strike damage move, but deals 45 bleed damage and an additional 70 bleed damage over 15 seconds. When applied from bear form, this effect can stack up to 3 times. Okay. And now here's the moves that come with that. I think it makes it well worth your while. First up, Incapacitating Roar. Shift into bear form and invoke the spirit of Ursel, sorry, to let loose a deafening roar. Incapacitating all enemies within 15 yards for 3 seconds. Damage will cancel the effect. So this basically is a way of you stopping their casting really quick and just interrupting. And then finally, whoops, sorry about that. Frenzied Regeneration, this one makes it worth your while picking it anyway. Even if it was just this move, you would have to consider picking it. But anyway, Frenzied Regeneration heals you for 32% health over 3 seconds with only a 31-second cooldown. So you can't really overlook that. And yeah, that's it with that one. That's pretty crucial, and you honestly can't overlook it. Even if it was just offering that as a talent, you should consider picking it anyway, but obviously it gives you 3 things for the price of 1, 4 things actually with the effect, so it's definitely worth it. Next up, Mass Entanglement. It's basically just like regular Entanglement, but a little bit more. Roots the target and all enemies within 15 yards in place for 30 seconds. Damage may interrupt the effect. Usable in all shape-shifting forms, so that's the difference between regular entangled roots and mass entanglement. Next up, Incarnation, Chosen of Elune. It's an improved Moonkin form that grants the benefit of celestial alignment and 10% critical strike chance. Last 30 seconds, you may shapeshift in and out of improved Moonkin form for its duration. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. So, obviously, you get the effect, you get the lunar and solar, and then look how cool it looks. Just on top of it, that's just a benefit. And then, as it was saying before, how you could switch in and out, now I'm in bear form. So you could shape in and out, you still have your eclipses up, you still have it there. It is still ticking time, but, you know, you could go right back into it. And now for the final 2, Twin Moons. It kind of says what it is in the name. Moonfire deals 10% increased damage and also hits another nearby enemy within 15 yards. And the big boy, as I mentioned earlier, what increases the starfall and makes it really even more intense. So it's called Solstice. During the first 6 seconds of every eclipse, shooting stars fall 300% more often. So you're really making it rain down. It's really the best one out of the bottom 3. There's really no choice. As you can see right there, it does a 300%. I was gonna bring it down here really quick. So you can see what it normally does, calls down the waves of falling stars upon enemies within 45 yards. Within 45 yards is a pretty big range, dealing 903 damage over 8 seconds. So it's already dealing 903 over the 8 seconds and over in a 45-yard range. So now you're increasing it by 300%. That's really a big deal. And now we're going to do the PvP talents to end it off before I go into Resto. Thorns. This is also used in Resto, by the way. So, if you played Druid at all, you know of this move. Sprouts Thorns for 12 seconds on the friendly target. When victim to melee attacks, Thorns deals 573 nature damage back to the attacker. Attackers also have their movement speed reduced by 50% for 4 seconds. Thorns is pretty crucial right now because you also, in Resto, there's an additional skin on top. So you have Bark skin, Thorns, for balance, and then with Resto there's another skin, so you could really just beef on your defense and dish out damage. It's also nice that you can reduce the speed. Moonkin Aura, Star Surge grants 4% spell critical strike chance to 8 allies within 40 yards for 18 seconds, stacking up to 3 times, so you're really getting 12% because it's gonna stack, believe me. And lastly, Celestial Guardian. While in bear form, you take 10% less damage from spells and receive 20% increased healing. Obviously, that's really, really big. They've really amped up bear form for balance, not just for Feral. Like, it is really good for Moonkin. It helps you get your health back, regen, and yeah, it's honestly excellent right now. And now, we're going to go into Resto. Okay, so here we go. Now we have Resto. So, okay, let's get into it. First, it's pretty much all heal moves. Rejuvenation, which is a heal over time. Regrowth, which also balance has, but it's a heal. Heals a friendly target for 816, and another 234 over 12 seconds. Resto Druids have the best hots in the game, which is heals over time. They're actually pretty much the only healer in the game that offers hots. And yeah, what do we got here? Swift Men, this is an excellent move. Consumes a regrowth, wild growth, or rejuvenation effect to instantly heal the ally for 1628. You'll always have at least one of those effects on the target, so that's nice. Ysir's Gift heals you for 3% of your maximum health every 5 seconds. If you are at full health, an injured party or raid member will be healed instead. So this is actually really nice for arena purposes. Wild Growth heals up to 6 injured allies within 30 yards of the target for 493 over 7 seconds. Healing starts high and declines over the duration. This is nice because, you know, for the majority, I'm not going to say all the time, but for the majority of the time, depending on the comp that you're playing with, your allies will be close together, so it is nice. And then you got Tranquility, which I love the way Tranquility looks. I'm going to do it while I read what it is. Heals all allies within 40 yards for 1392 over 7 seconds. Each heal heals the target for another 32 over 8 seconds. Healing increased by 100% when not in a raid. So you're not going to be in a raid for arena comp. So let's get into it. Like I said earlier, I'm not going to read you Thorns. You can see Thorns there, but I will go over the other ones once we're done. Cenarian Ward protects a friendly target for 30 seconds. Any damage taken will consume the ward and heals the target for 1700 over 8 seconds. It's kind of the first time that they get some sort of shield, which I think is kind of cool. Wild Charge. So I was wrong, actually. They don't pick Renewal. They pick Wild Charge. Grants a movement ability that varies by shapeshift form. So I'll read all the forms. Non-shapeshifted. Fly to an ally's position. That's exactly what you're going to use all the time. Not the majority of the time, because if your target gets out of line of sight, because believe me, sometimes if you're not playing with friends and you're playing with random people just go running all around and it's ridiculous. So that's a good way to just get to your target immediately. Bear form, charge to an enemy, immobilizing them for 4 seconds. That's also a good option. Cat form leaps and dazes them for 3 seconds. Travel form, leap forward 20 yards. And you don't need aquatic form, but increases swim speed by an additional 150% for 5 seconds. Guardian Affinity, I'll just read it like this, but we went over for balance form what each one does and why you need it, but reduces all damage by 6%, and you learn Thrash, Frenzy Regeneration, and Incapacitating Roar. All those abilities, what they do not change for Resto. It's the same as they were for balance. Mighty Bash, I love this move. I'm glad it's really back in action. Invokes the Spirit of Ursak to stun the target for 4 seconds, usable in all shape-shifting forms. That's the difference this time. It used to just be bear form. No, now you could use it in your base form while you're healing. Excellent to have an additional CC. That's also why Resto is in the A tier right now. If Discipline Priest gets any sort of new nerf at all, Resto will move up. Resto Druid. Right now, I think Resto Druid is the second best healer in the game. They just have a little bit of a hard time healing through Big Burst. So there is that. So we got Soul of the Forest. Swift Men increases the healing of your next regrowth or rejuvenation by 200%, or your next wild growth by 75%. You're more than likely going to want to use regrowth or rejuvenation instead of the wild growth. Obvious, you're getting double, so it is nice. More than double, actually. Now for our final two. We got Overgrowth. Apply Life Bloom, Rejuvenation, Wild Growth, and Regrowth's Heal over time effect to an ally. And it's only a 1 minute cooldown. So you're getting all 4 of your hots on one person. That's really good. Unfortunately, like I just said, they are hots. So when someone's getting bursted down, just ripped down, this isn't going to pull you out of that scenario. But it is still a really, really good thing. And finally, Germination. You can apply Rejuvenation twice to the same target, and it's a passive ability, so it is really, really nice, because now you could also do this and then hit Rejuvenation again, so now you're getting all your regular hots, and then the Germination, which is just another Rejuvenation. And like I said, we went through Thorns already, and Focus Growth. Reduce the mana cost of your Life Bloom by 8%, and your Life Bloom also applies Focus Growth to the target, increasing Life Bloom's healing by 8%. stacks up to 3 times. So you're really getting 24% increase, almost a quarter more. It is really nice. And finally, Reactive Resin. Casting Rejuvenation grants the targets 2 charges to reactivate Resin. Reactivate Resin will heal the target for 340 after taking a melee critical strike, and increase the duration of your rejuvenation by 2.5 seconds. So, obviously you guys know this right now, depending on what comps you're going up against, which more than likely, especially when you get up to the higher ranks, Rogue or Warrior is more than likely going to be involved, so they have a really high critical strike chance, so you will be getting critical strike. You don't need to worry. That is going to activate. So, there we have it for... Okay, so now we're going to cover 2 different pre-specs. We're going to do Shadow and we're going to do Discipline. Holy is kind of irrelevant right now. There's really no reason to go over it. So I'm not going to make another video including Holy unless they receive a major buff, because Discipline is just that good. So first we're going to do Shadow. Obviously you see me in Shadow form, so the base that it comes with is Shadow Word Pain. It's just it's a damage over time effect dot. You get Shadow form, which assumes Shadow form increasing your spell damage dealt by 10%. Mind Blast, which is for all different priests, but it's a little bit better for this because it generates 7 insanity and blasts the target's mind for 534 shadow damage. Mind Flay, which is just shadow, assaults the target's mind with shadow energy, causing 826 shadow damage over 3.8 seconds, and slowing their movement speed by 50%, generates 18 insanity over that duration. Void form. It's a passive ability activated by casting Void Eruption Twist, your shadow form, with the powers of the Void, increasing spell damage you deal by 20%, granting an additional charge of Mind Blast. You get 2 charges, and refreshing Mind Blast cooldown. That's really crucial because Mind Blast is one of your hardest hitting moves. It's probably the hardest. I don't want to say one of it is the hardest. And then Void Eruption. Release an explosive blast of pure Void energy, activating Void form and causing 705 shadow damage to all enemies within 10 yards of the target. During Void form, this ability is replaced by Void Bolt, and on top of all that, it actually, you can see what it looks like. That's why I'm by the target dummies. So it really does cover a lot of ground as well. And we'll get into the talent now. So you got Unfurling Darkness. After casting Vampiric Touch on a target, your next Vampiric Touch within 8 seconds is an instant cast and deals 689 shadow damage immediately. This effect cannot occur more than once every 15 seconds, which isn't that big of a deal because, like it just says, it's within 8 seconds anyway, so you get to do it pretty much consistently. Intangibility Dispersion heals for 50% of your maximum health over its duration and has a 30-second cooldown reduction. This is actually really crucial because now you're getting the 50% heal, and just to have it reduce cooldown to 1.5 minutes instead of 2 minutes is a big deal because it's basically your version of an immunity like Paladin Bubble, so it's the same deal. Next we got Misery. Vampiric Touch also applies Shadow Word Pain to the target. Obviously that's really awesome because now you have 2 different ways to applying dots without having to click your dots. So for example, you'll have Damnation, which instantly afflicts the target with Shadow Word Pain, Vampiric Touch, and Devouring Plague free of cost with only a 45-second cooldown. And now your Vampiric Touch is automatically putting Shadow Word Pain, so that is a crucial thing. For the level 35 bar, you could actually have 2 different choices. The better choice is Psychic Horror. Terrifies the target in place, stunning them for 4 seconds. So now, with that stun for 4 seconds, you also have a Fear and you have a Silence. So you have basically, you're the jack of all trades, you're the Swiss Army knife, you have one of each. But the second option, if for some reason you didn't want to pick Psychic Horror, would be Mind Bomb. Inflicts the target with Mind Bomb after 2 seconds, or if the target dies, it unleashes a Psychic Explosion, disorienting all enemies within 8 yards of the target for 6 seconds. Notice how it doesn't say anything about damage getting them out of the disoriented, so it is pretty good, but just Psychic Horror is more consistent, so that's the better choice of the 2. Auspicious Spirits is next. Your shadowy apparitions now deal 30% increased damage and generate 1 insanity. Obviously 30% increased damage is really, really big. It's automatic pick. We already went over what Damnation does. It's definitely the best of the three. There's no comparison. I'll read it again for you. Instantly afflicts the target with all your dots, Shadow Word Pain, Vampiric Touch, and Devouring Plague. And that's also nice because even though Shadow Word Pain and Devouring Plague are instant, Vampiric Touch is a 1.3 second cast, so you're also removing the cast out of it. And lastly, your bottom row, you want Ancient Madness. Void Form increases your critical strike chance by 30% for 15 seconds and reducing by 2% every 2 seconds. So over the course of the 15 seconds, you'll still have about 12% left. No, actually you won't. You'll be completely done. Yeah, I'll have to edit that out. And now we're gonna do the PvP talents. I'm gonna have to do so much editing for this. What is this? 36. Okay, now we're gonna do the PvP talents. We have Void Shift. You and the currently target party or raid member swap health percentages, increasing the lower health percentage of the two to 25% if below that amount. For this one, it is different than Discipline Priest. You would think that they would kind of run something similar. For this, you're going to run Greater Fade. So, obviously, Fade normally does the same thing, but this is just amplifying it. So, Greater Fade, Fade out, removing all threat. That's normally what Fade does. But now, increases your movement speed by 50% and causing most melee, range, and spells to miss you. So, you're almost like an evasion with increased speed. It's way better than the original Fade. Lasts 4 seconds or until you take a hostile action. So if you do any sort of damage, it's going to cancel it out. And then finally, Thought Steal. There is no choice. This is really, really good to have. Peer into the mind of the enemy attempting to steal a known spell. If stolen, the victim cannot cast the spell for 20 seconds. Can only be used on humanoids. Actually, that's really irrelevant. So yeah, if you steal something like a silence, a stun, even one of their major moves that they constantly use, like a frostbolt, you'll really take someone and completely throw off their whole game plan. So this is a must pick. And now we're gonna get into discipline. So, like I just said earlier, this is definitely the better of the two healing choices. It's not even close. Discipline is the best healer in the game right now. They use Atonement, so it's a little bit different than all the other healers, which probably is the reason why it makes them better, but let's get into it. Power Word Shield. Obviously, all the priests have this, but shields an ally for 15 seconds, absorbing almost 900 damage. You cannot shield the target again for another 7.5 seconds. More than likely, sometimes you'll be in a situation where you can't shield, but you should be good for the most part. Penance, which is one of my favorite moves, launches a volley of holy light at the target, causing 889 holy damage to the enemy, or 2,500 healing to an ally over 1.7 seconds, castable while moving. And now this is what I was mentioning earlier about Atonement, why it's different from all the other healers. Power World Shield, Shadow Mend, and Power World Radiance apply Atonement to the target for 15 seconds. Your spell damage heals all targets affected by Atonement for 50% of the damage done. So it's completely different style than all the other healers, which makes it so interesting and makes it that much better than everybody else. Because out of all the damage dealers in the game, Discipline, believe it or not, is going to do more damage than about half of them. And on top of that, in terms of one-on-one, even though you're using Atonement for the healing, when it comes to self-healing, they're still good. They will beat any class in a one-on-one. This is the healer to be, especially if you're just picking priest in general. You don't want to be holy. Next, we have Shadow Men. Wraps an ally in shadows, which heals for 1,500, but at a price. The ally will take 79 damage every second until they have taken 793 total damage from all sources. All sources. So another enemy attacking them is part of the all sources. And yeah, if you're dealing damage at the same time, you're going to get the 1,500 heal plus the healing that you're giving out from your Atonement. So it's definitely, I wouldn't worry about that damage. And the final two things, Pain Suppression, reduce all damage taken by a friendly target by 40% for 8 seconds, castable while stunned. This is crucial. anything that you could cast while stunned, as I mentioned earlier, for a different class is really a really big deal, especially something that's going to reduce the damage if they're about to do a big burst. Normally, if they're doing a CC chain, they're going to do it on somebody else. So if they're stunning you, they're about to do their big burst, you could cast this on the target that's about to try to get destroyed. So it is really good. And lastly, Power Word Barrier. Summons a Holy Barrier to protect allies at the target's location for 10 seconds, reducing all damage taken by 25% and preventing damage from delaying spellcasting. So, excellent. And now let's get into it. For the first bar, there's actually two choices, but so I'll read you the one that's more than likely the go-to pick, but here it is. Castigation. Penance fires one additional bolt of Holy Light over its duration. So obviously, having that extra is more heals and or more damage. But the other choice that you could have is Twist of Fate, which is also really, really good. After healing a target below 35% health, you deal 20% increased damage and 20% increased healing for 10 seconds. Now, the reason why Castigation is kind of the go-to is because it's more consistent throughout. You won't always be healing a target under 35%, and because of that, this is used more often. It's just better off. So that's why that's the go-to, but this does have its time and place, and it is still relevant. For the next bar, we have Body and Soul. Power World Shield and Leap of Faith increase your target's movement speed by 40% for 3 seconds. So not only are you increasing your own mobility, you can increase your teammates' mobility, and that's really helpful for classes that have like less mobility. Sometimes Paladins, Ret Paladins in particular, can't have as much free roam, so this is really helpful for them. Next up, we have Power Word Solace. Strikes an enemy with heavenly power, dealing 444 holy damage and restoring 1% of your maximum mana. So now you're getting a little bit of a mana regen, and it's a short cooldown of 13 seconds. Passive, Psychic Voice, reduces the cooldown of Psychic Scream by 30 seconds. That's honestly crucial because now what it normally is 1 minute. You could use your Fear every 30 seconds. It's definitely really good to have for your team. You're bringing a lot more utility and CC to the table. Sins of Many. Your damage is increased by up to 12%, diminishing for each ally affected by your Atonement. All your allies should have Atonement, including yourself, so definitely excellent to have. And for our last two, Purge the Wicked. Replaces your Shadow Word Pain, which you're not going to need. This is definitely better. Cleanses the target with fire, causing 138 fire damage and an additional 906 over 20 seconds. Spreads to an additional nearby enemy when you cast Penance on the target. So obviously, you're going to use Penance a lot, so this is going to be spread. That's why it's better than Shadow Word Pain in general. Shadow Word Pain, you would normally have to, target. This just spreads it very easily, and there's no cooldown on it, just like Shadow Word Pain was, so this is the go-to choice. And lastly, Penance. Atonement, reduced damage taken by 3%. It really sounds like nothing, but 3% is definitely going to make a difference. And we're down to our PvP talents now. We have Dome of Light, reduces the cooldown of Power Word Barrier by 90 seconds. Power Word Barrier reduces the damage taken by an additional 25%. So, as we went over earlier, where's my Power Word Barrier? So, it normally has a 3-minute cooldown. Now, you get to reduce by 90 seconds, so it's definitely crucial. It doesn't show it here, so it's really a 1.5-minute cooldown. And now you're reducing damage by 50% instead of 25%. So it's definitely really good. Trinity, Atonement duration is increased by 15 seconds, and healing transferred increased by 20%, but can only be applied through Power World Shield. Like I said earlier, you're really spreading around Power World Shield to all your allies anyway, so this shouldn't be an issue. Smite, Penance, and Shadow Fiend critical strike chance increased by 25% when you have Atonement on 3 or more allies. So, as long as you have it on yourself and 2 others, all that's going to be relevant to you and should not be an issue. And lastly, Dark Archangel increases your damage and the damage of all allies within your Atonement by 15% for 8 seconds. Honestly, anything that's increasing your Atonement, you're going to want. That's where you get your healing from. That's where you get your increased damage from. Why they're an upper tier damage, even though they're a healer. So you definitely want Dark Archangel. It's a short cooldown anyway, so it's really good to have just as a PvP talent. Okay. Okay, now we're gonna do our final 3 specs. The final 3 are gonna be Rogue, Hunter, and Frost Death Knight, and Sub Rogue in particular. So here we go. So the difference between Assassination, Outlaw, and Sub is more stealth-based stuff. They also now get poisons baseline. So before it used to just be Assassination would have poisons. Now that Sub gets poisons as well, it really does bring them over the top. That's why they're in the S tier. Not just the poisons, but that is one of the reasons. So now you get Wounded Poison, which reduces the healing on the target, and Crippling Poison, which slows the target. Avest Create is a staple move. Obviously, you stack up your combo points and you unleash this. 5 points deals 812 damage. Backstab is their main baseline move. Stab the target, causing 268 physical damage. Increased by 20% when you are behind the target. Obviously, you're going to want to be behind the target as a rogue. That's why they have all the stuns and the slows. Shadow Dance allows use of all stealth abilities and grants all combat benefits of stealth for 9 seconds and increases damage by 30%. Effects not broken from taking damage or attacking. So this is a really, really good move. Shadow Strike, it requires stealth, but Shadow Dance, you could use it while out of stealth. Strike the target, dealing 569 physical damage. While stealth, your strike through the shadows and appear behind your target up to 25 yards, dealing 25% additional damage. Shadow Strike is also one of the things that benefits from the Conduit. What it does is it gives you could deal double damage. So when you Shadow Strike, it's also going to hit the target for double and for 100% of the damage. So really, how it says 570 there, you're really doing 1140 to the target. So it's really, really good. Shoryuken Storm, spray Shoryukens at up to 8 targets within 10 yards. It's basically Fan of Knives. And lastly, Symbols of Death, instant. This is an excellent move. 30-second cooldown. Invoke Ancient Symbols of Power, generating 40 energy, and increasing your damage done by 15% for 10 seconds. Your next combo point generator will critically strike. So, when you know that it's going to be a critical strike, you're going to want to do an all-out power move, obviously. So, you might want to do Shadow Strike here with Shadow Step, and it just will all form together. I meant Shadow Dance, not Shadow Step. Okay, here we go. So, first row, Premeditation. After entering stealth, your next Shadow Strike grants up to 10 seconds of Slice and Dice and generates 2 additional combo points if Slice and Dice is active. You're going to use Slice and Dice a lot. It's one of those things that you get the extra speed, so it's definitely crucial for you to be using this at all times. You always want it up. Subterfuge is the second one. Your abilities requiring stealth can still be used for 3 seconds after stealth breaks. You're getting an extra cheap shot, which means you're getting an extra 2 combo points. There is no choice other than sub for this one. And also increases the duration of Shadow Dance by 1 second. So now instead of 9 seconds, you're getting 10 seconds for Shadow Dance. Third row, Mark of Death. This is also the choice that it was in BFA, so nothing has changed here. Marks the target, instantly generating 5 combo points. Cooldown resets if the target dies within 1 minute. So, obviously, anytime that you're getting the additional 5 combo points like that, so you could get a full kidney out of this, a full rupture, so on. It's really crucial to have this one. Elusiveness. Feint also reduces all damage you take from non-area of effect attacks by 30% for 5 seconds. It's just adding to the more durability that they have. You would think they used to be somewhat squishy. Now that they do have a lot of things that could help them sustain, this is obviously one of them. This adds to Feint. Obviously, you have your heal with Crimson Vial, you have Evasion, you have Smoke Bomb. A lot of things that just add up. They are really, really good right now. Next, we have Prey on the Weak. Enemies disabled by your cheap shot or kidney shot take 10% increased damage from all sources. So your teammate here. There's going to be scenarios, especially in 2v2 that have no healer. You're going to Shadow Duel. Shadow Duel is going to put you in a one-on-one scenario that they can't trinket out of. The increased damage that they will take now if you kidney or cheap shot them, a hunter can see through the Shadow Duel. So, and that's a really common 2s team right now. Basically, they really just work well with. Not only are they really strong for a one-on-one scenario, they really do work well with the majority of classes out there. That's why they're in so many comps right now. That's why they are the best melee in the game, on top of their regular baseline stuff. So now we have Dark Shadow. Shadow Dance now increases damage by 30%. So now, as you can see, everything's going together with your Shadow Dance. So now it's going to last 10 seconds. You have increased damage from your stealth moves while Shadow Dance. And now you also have extra increased damage, so it's really what this class is all about. It's a big part of it. And lastly, we have Master of Shadows. Gain 25 energy over 3 seconds when you enter stealth or activate Shadow Dance. this is crucial. Obviously, any additional energy you have, you could pull out more moves. You don't really need to worry about it too much. And now we're going to get into the PvP talents. First, we have Cold Blood. Requires stealth. When activated, your next cheap shot or shadow strike will deal up to 10% of the target's total health. So that's big damage. You definitely want this. And that's why I also chose it as my first one. And our final two, Smoke Bomb. This is non-negotiable. You definitely need this one because it helps your team and yourself, and it's not really that bad of a cooldown. Creates a cloud of thick smoke in 8-yard radius around the rogue for 5 seconds. Enemies are unable to target you. So yeah, it honestly speaks for itself. You could regen in this scenario, and it's really good. And lastly, Shadow Duel, as I mentioned earlier, and I'll read what it does to you. You lock your target into a duel contained in shadows, removing both of you from the eyes of onlookers for 6 seconds. So now you create a one-on-one scenario. Rogues win in the majority of one-on-one scenarios, and allows access to stealth-based abilities. So you basically have Shadow Dance without using Shadow Dance. The cooldown's not that long, and as I mentioned earlier, because Rogue Hunter is a really big comp right now, you have the ability to see through with the Hunter, so they're going to be in a lot of scenarios. It's a really good comp. It's a top 3, so I just figured I would mention that as I'm going through the specializations. Alright guys, we're down to our final 2 specs that I'm going to do for this video. We're going to do Marksman Hunter, and we're going to do Frost Death Knight. So here we go. I don't know why I keep clicking the wrong one. So Marksman is survival. Hunter would be, they do a weapon, Beastmasters all around the pets. Marksman's new thing is they're no pet, which I absolutely love. I always wish that they had this. So let's get into it. There's Steady Shot, which is a 1.6 second cast. It just deals physical damage, and you can do it while moving. Arcane Shot, you'll see that you actually, this is irrelevant. It's going to change. Aim Shot, this is your big boy move. A powerful aim shot that deals 1032 damage, and you have 2 charges. It has 11-second recharge. That 2.2 second cast is going to be irrelevant because you're only going to do it when it procs for instant. Lone Wolf, as I mentioned earlier, how you're going to have no pet. This is the passive that it comes with. Increases your damage by 10% when you do not have an active pet. So you're going to see that you definitely don't want your pet at all. It works with other things. And Trick Shot. It's a passive. When multi-shot hits 3 or more targets, your next aim shot or rapid fire will ricochet and hit up to 5 additional targets for 50% of its normal damage. This is actually really awesome. And lastly, rapid fire shoots a stream of 7 shots at the target over 1.8 seconds, dealing a total of 1,000 physical damage. Each shot generates 1 focus. And let's get into the talent. So I'm not max level on this guy. I just know about it from playing the beta and stuff like that, and it's really good. It's a top 5 class. So, first off, you have Master Marksman. Your ranged special attack, critical strike, causes the target to bleed for an additional 15% of the damage dealt over 6 seconds. So it's like really rapid dot. It's really good. We have Careful Aim. Aim shot deals 50% bonus damage to the target who are above 70% health. So that could really do huge damage. Almost basically, if they're just at, say, 75%. Now they could really do a one-hit KO scenario, so it's really good. And we have Camouflage. You're definitely going to want Camouflage because now it puts you in a lot of scenarios where your team could start off in stealth, especially for 2s if you're having no healer. If you comp with a Mage, now you can both start stealth. If you're doing Rogue, you both start stealth. It's really good. I'll read it to you. You and your pet blend into surroundings and gain stealth for 1 minute. While Camouflage, you will heal for 2% of maximum health every second. And this is why I said Arcane Shot is relevant, because it gets replaced by this. You have Chimera Shot, a 2-headed shot that hits your primary target for 270 nature damage and another nearby target for 135 frost damage. This is really awesome because now you're getting 2 for 1. And I'll read you the last 3 that you pick here. So you pick Post Haste. This one's the best by far. Disengage also frees you from all movement impairing effects and increases your movement speed by 50% for 4 seconds. It's definitely critical that you have this because it's going to get you out of like frozen ice and stuff like that. You're going to definitely want this. Then you pick Double Tap. Double Tap. Your aim shot will fire at a second time instantly at 100% power without consuming focus, or your next rapid fire will shoot 100% additional shots during its channel. This one's crucial because It's not out yet, but your conduit will make it that you have no line of sight problems. So when people are behind a pillar, you could shoot anyway. So this will put you in a scenario where you could double aim shot behind a pillar when people think that they're getting away to heal quick. You could really devastate somebody. And the last one, you pick lock and load as of right now. Sometimes people are considering volley, but as of right now, the choice is lock and load. Your ranged auto attacks have an 8% chance to trigger lock and load, causing your next aim shot to cost no focus and be instant. So anything that's making your aim shot instant is really, really critical, because that's your bread and butter. It's like Elemental's Lava Burst, so you definitely want it. And we'll get into the PvP. Scatter Shot, this is without question the best one. A short range shot that deals 17 damage, it's not about that. Removes all harmful damage over time effects and incapacitates the target for 4 seconds. Any damage gets them out of the incapacitation, but it basically is a good way to stop a spellcast from happening. And survival tactics. Feeds Death removes all harmful magical effects and reduces damage taken by 99% for a second and a half. This is definitely critical to have if you have a lot of dots on you and stuff like that. Just will help you reset yourself. And so we're going to go over Frost to end it. Unholy is another really good, reliable spec right now. I'm going to make that for another video, so there's nothing to worry about that. It's just for this one, I only wanted to do 10 specs. That way it was a nice even number, get it all done within an hour video, and it was just much more efficient. But in the next video, I will be including Unholy, what goes well with Unholy. Frost right now is the better burst option, way better, and it works with a lot of other burstier teams or teams that are going to help keep the target in place, like Rogue and stuff like that. Other one-hit KO possible teams like Elemental Shaman, Ret Paladin. Now they brought back two-handed Frost, which is awesome, because if you ever played back in the day for Frost with Wrath of the Lich King or something like that, Obliterate used to be devastating for two-handed damage. And I'll read to you: a brutal attack that deals 272 physical damage, and it costs 2 runes. It's going to do way more than that, I promise you. When you're max level and you have the gear and everything's done, this is going to be your bread and butter. Then you have Frost Strike, chill your weapon with icy power and quickly strike the enemy, dealing 211 frost damage. You have Howling Blast, blast the target with a frigid wind, dealing 60 frost damage to the foe and reduce damage to all other enemies within 10 yards, infecting all targets with Frost Fever. Frost Fever is it's a dot. It's a disease that deals 720 frost damage over 24 seconds and has a chance to grant Death Knight 5 runic power each time it deals damage. Remorseless Winter, which is excellent. It only has a 20-second cooldown, and it drains the warmth of life of all nearby enemies within 8 yards, dealing 270 frost damage over 8 seconds, but it reduces their movement speed by 20%. And the last two things, they're both passives. You have Rim. Obliterate has a 45% chance to cause your next Howling Blast to consume no runes and deal an 150% additional damage. So they go hand in hand. They work together nicely. And your last passive, Killing Machine, your auto attacks Critical Strike have a chance to make your next Obliterate critically strike. So anything that's going to make your best, strongest hitting move automatically crit, you want that. And let's get into the talent. So first, we have Inexorable Assault. You gain Inexorable Assault over every 8 seconds, stacking 5 times. Obliterate consumes a stack to deal an additional 92 frost damage. As you can see already, everything's working with Obliterate to deal more damage with it, to critically strike with it. So you definitely want this. Runic Attenuation. Auto attacks have a chance to generate 5 runic power. Nice and simple. Now, out of the 3 here, obviously, these are all pretty good. Asphyxiate is really good, but in this instance, this is the better option. 1 minute cooldown. Targets in a cone in front of you are binded, causing them to wander, disorienting for 5 seconds. Damage may cancel the effect. When binding sheet ends, enemies are slowed by 50% for 6 seconds. Slowing down your enemy is good for Frost. That way you can keep them in place, keep the pressure on. It's really good to have this one. And the cooldown isn't that long. These ones are about the same. Well, this one isn't a cooldown, but it's about the same. Asphyxiate is also another good choice. It's basically 1A, 1B, but as of right now, this is your go-to. Frozen Pulse. While you have fewer than 3 full runes, your auto attacks radiate intense cold, inflicting 21 frost damage on all nearby enemies. It's a good passive ability. Now, you have this, Wraith Walk. Embrace the power of Shadowlands, removing all root effects and increasing your movement speed by 70% for 4 seconds. Taking any action will cancel the effect. Anything that's increasing your speed to catch up to your target is really good. Obviously, you have Death Grip to bring them in, so this is another way to catch up without bringing them in. While active, your movement speed cannot be reduced below 170. And now we're down to the last two. I'm not level 50 on this character, but I will read you what the preferred choices are. So I'm blanking really quick. Sorry. It was Gathering the Storm. Each rune spent during Remorseless Winter increases its damage by 10% and extends its duration by a half a second. And lastly, Ice Cap. Your Frost Strike and Obliterate critical strike reduce the remaining cooldown of Pillar of Frost by 4 seconds. Obviously, Frost Strike and Obliterate are going to crit all the time. All the time. So basically, Pillar of Frost with that constant reduced cooldown, you're always going to have Pillar of Frost up. That's why you use this, because your critical strike chance is at least 50% with everything that's increased, all the increased effects. And now the PvP talents. You have Chill Streak, deals 429 frost damage to targets and reduce their movement speed by 70% for 4 seconds. It also bounces up to 9 times between the closest targets, so obviously now you're spreading down slows, so you're bringing good utility for your team. Delirium. Your Howling Blast and Frost Strike apply Delirium to the target, a disease that deliberates the target's movement, reducing the cooldown recovery rate of movement-enhancing abilities by 25%, stacks up to 2 times and lasts for 15 seconds. So you're basically getting a 50% because it is going to stack. It's inevitable. And now the last one I don't have picked because I'm not high enough level for it, but it is the choice right here is Heart Stop Aura. Decreases the cooldown recovery rate of abilities by 30% to all enemies within 8 yards. This is honestly really critical. This one is probably the best one out of all your PvP talents, and it's a passive ability. So this is excellent. And that's it for Frost Death Knight. Alright, so that's it for these 10 specs. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like I said earlier, if you did, please, if you could, like and subscribe. I'm going to be making way more WoW videos during the pre-patch, and as the game comes out, any updates that happen, I will be making sure to make a new video to correct any errors, any changes. The next video that I do, I'm probably going to cover the next 10 specs, which is going to include Warlock, Monk, Unholy Death Knight, and a couple other things. And then as the game comes out, I'm also going to go over Conduits, Covenants, all different stuff like that. And I'm also going to be doing another comp one for 2v2s with healers. I made one without healers, and I'm going to put that in the bio for you guys. I hope you, like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thank you for tuning in.